What kind of promise can an 8-year-old make that still shakes a grown man's life 10 years later? Spring of 1877 came late to Sagebrush Crossing, a dusty little town resting beside the Platte River in the Wyoming Territory. The cold had only just loosened its grip, and the first pale green leaves trembled on the cottonwoods. Morning sounds filled the air, from the clang of the blacksmith's hammer to the steady clopping of horses on the hard-packed street. Caleb Ward stepped out of Murphy's General Store with a heavy sack of flour on one shoulder and a coil of rope in his other hand. At 30, he moved like a man shaped by years of hard ranch work, quiet, steady, always carrying more weight than he showed. His face was weathered and unreadable, like the land itself, carved by wind and silence. He loaded his supplies into his wagon without hurry. Around him, the town buzzed with its usual life, but Caleb paid little attention. He'd learned long ago to keep to his own business and stay out of everyone else's troubles. Across the street, Mrs. Sarah Carver worked to handle the town water pump. Her daughter stood beside her, holding 2 empty buckets. Eliza Carver was only 8 years old, small and thin, with hair the color of dried prairie grass and a blue ribbon that had faded from long use. But her eyes, they were sharp, bright, and fixed on Caleb Ward. Mrs. Carver tugged her daughter's hand. "Stop staring, Eliza. It's not polite." Eliza didn't look away. She had been watching Caleb since the day her family arrived 3 days earlier. She had seen him mend an old man's wagon without being asked. She had seen him leave supplies at a widow's door before dawn. She had seen how he calmed a frightened horse with nothing more than a quiet word and a steady hand. And she decided, right then and there, that this man was good. As Caleb walked past the pump, Eliza pulled her hand free and stepped right into his path. He stopped, surprise flickering across his usually calm face. "Mister," she said, "my name is Eliza." Caleb tipped his hat. "Miss," quote. Before her mother could react, Eliza rose on her tiptoes and pressed a small, quick kiss to Caleb's rough cheek. Then she looked straight at him with a seriousness far too old for her age. "Wait for me." The whole street went still. A few people chuckled. Others shook their heads. But Caleb didn't laugh. He studied her small face, searching it like he was reading the future in her eyes. "Promises carry weight in this country," he said. "They can last a lifetime. You sure you want to make one?" "I'm sure," Eliza said. "I seen you're good and kind. And when I grow up, I'm coming back." Mrs. Carver rushed forward, mortified. "Eliza, I'm so sorry, Mr. Ward." "She reads too many stories." "No harm done," Caleb said quietly, but his eyes stayed on Eliza as the family walked away. Later that afternoon, the Carvers packed their wagon to head north. Mr. Carver was full of dreams about new land and better luck, talking to his wife as if hope alone could keep a family fed. But little Eliza sat silent in the back of the wagon, clutching her blue ribbon tightly in one hand. As their wagon rolled away from town, she turned in her seat and stared back at Caleb Ward, who stood near the livery stable. She waved until the bend in the river hid him from view. That night, as stars filled the dark Wyoming sky, Caleb sat alone at his ranch house, 5 miles outside town. The house was sturdy and large, built for a family he'd never had. Every empty chair at the long dining table reminded him of the years that had slipped by without change. Wake before dawn, check cattle, mend fences, eat alone, sleep alone. Repeat. But tonight felt different. A little girl's voice echoed through the empty rooms. "Wait for me." He tried to brush it off. Children made silly promises all the time. The West was full of broken dreams and wandering families. Most never returned. But something in her eyes, something bright and certain, lingered in his mind like a spark refusing to die. He finished his coffee and stepped outside. The wind whispered through the grasslands, carrying the sound of distant coyotes. Caleb stared toward the dark horizon and wondered, just for a moment, what kind of woman that determined little girl might become if she survived the frontier at all. Because out here, only a few kept their hope alive, and even fewer kept their promises. 10 years later, One of them was about to return. What happens when a childhood promise walks right back into your life as a grown woman? 10 years had passed since Eliza Carver had kissed Caleb Ward by the river. The year was now 1887, and time had left its mark on the Wyoming territory. The railroad had carved its way through the land, new people had flooded in, and Sagebrush Crossing had grown from a lonely settlement into a busy little town with a school, a bank, and a hotel. And Caleb Ward? He had changed too. At 40, his hair carried streaks of gray like frost on winter grass. His shoulders were broader, his face more carved, and his silence deeper. Life had taught him to expect nothing and trust even less. The ranch had grown under his steady hand, but the house remained quiet. Too quiet. But the biggest change came in the form of trouble. Silas Boone, a wealthy newcomer with greedy eyes on Caleb's land, had begun using pressure, threats, and hired guns to force him to sell. Caleb stood alone against him. He always had. Until one hot afternoon, the stagecoach from Cheyenne rolled into town. A young woman stepped down, dusty from the road but standing tall. She wore a worn blue dress and carried a single carpet bag, but she held herself with the calm strength of someone who had survived more than most men ever would. Her hair was still the color of autumn grass, and her eyes, they were the same bright, sharp eyes Caleb had seen 10 years ago, but now they belonged to a woman. Eliza Carver had returned. Her family was gone. Her father dead from pneumonia, her mother lost to grief 2 years after, her brothers scattered across the country. Eliza had worked across 3 territories to keep herself alive, cooking, sewing, caring for the sick, mending, surviving, and she never forgot her promise. Mrs. Murphy recognized her first. Good heavens, little Eliza. The one who kissed Caleb Ward and told him to wait? Eliza only nodded. I came back. Marshal Amos Pike stepped inside the store then, sizing her up. A young woman alone in the West drew attention and danger. You looking for work, Miss Carver? He asked. Yes, Marshal. Honest work. Any kind. After a moment, Pike said the words that changed everything. Caleb Ward needs help at his ranch, room, board, and wages. It's proper work if you're willing. I'm willing, Eliza said, so Pike hitched his buggy and took her the 5 miles out of town. Caleb was leaving the barn when the buggy rolled up. He froze when he saw her. For a long moment, they simply stood staring at each other, 10 years hanging between them like dust in the sun. Mr. Ward, Eliza said softly, I told you I'd come back. Caleb swallowed hard. Miss Carver, you were 8 years old. And now I'm 18. I kept count. He didn't know what to do with the feeling rising in his chest. Hope, disbelief, fear, maybe all 3. When Pike explained that she needed a place to work, Caleb hesitated. It's not proper, he said. A young woman living here alone. When has proper ever mattered out here? Eliza replied. You need help. I can work. I'm not scared of hard work or hard men. I've survived 10 years of both. Her voice left no room for argument. And part of Caleb, part he thought long buried, wanted her to stay. Room and board, he said finally. $2 a week. Work starts at dawn. I understand. He carried her trunk inside like it weighed nothing. When he showed her the spare room, she took a quiet breath. It's perfect, she whispered. Caleb paused at the doorway. Miss Carver, why did you really come back? Eliza met his eyes. Because I made a promise. And because even as a child, I saw who you were. 10 years didn't change that. Caleb left without answering, but something in him cracked open, just a little. In the weeks that followed, Eliza became part of the ranch like she had been born to it. She cooked, cleaned, mended, and helped with outside chores. She learned the land, its moods, its dangers. Caleb taught her how to spot a sick calf from a distance and how to read the sky before a storm. Their rhythm was easy, natural, 2 people working together like the land had shaped them for it. But gossip spread in town like wildfire. She lives with him, people whispered. It's improper. He's too old. She's too young. But Eliza didn't care, and Caleb didn't answer to anyone. Then came the church social. Eliza wore a simple green dress that matched the gold in her eyes. Caleb stood beside her, tense as a man waiting for a storm. People stared, whispered, judged. And then Silas Boone walked up to her. "Miss Carver," he said smoothly, "care to dance?" "No, thank you," Eliza replied. He smirked. "A pretty girl like you shouldn't waste her youth keeping house for a man who barely knows you're alive." The crowd held its breath. Eliza stepped forward, voice ringing clear. "I came back because I recognize decency when I see it. Some men talk smooth but grab rough. Some treat people like things to buy. Caleb Ward isn't like that. He never was. If you're bothered by a woman choosing her own life, maybe you should ask yourself why." No one in Sagebrush Crossing had ever seen such fire in her eyes. The whole yard went silent, and from the shadows Caleb stepped forward, standing at her side like he'd been summoned. "Miss Carver is under my protection," he said calmly to Boone. "Any man who threatens her will answer to me." Something changed that night, something big. Later, on the slow wagon ride home under the stars, Eliza spoke quietly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to make trouble." Caleb shook his head. "You told the truth. That's nothing to apologize for." She looked at him. "I meant everything I said." He didn't answer, but his silence said more than words ever could. That night on the porch, she placed her hand near his on the railing, not touching, just close enough to feel his warmth. 10 years ago, she made a promise. And now, Caleb finally felt it settling into his bones like a truth he couldn't ignore. She had come back. She meant it. And the West was about to test both of them. What does love become when the whole frontier tries to tear it apart? Autumn brought danger to the Ward Ranch. What started as small troubles turned into open attacks. Fences were cut, water holes ruined, cattle stampeded in the night. Caleb knew exactly who was behind it. Silas Boone. But knowing meant nothing without proof. One night, Eliza woke to the smell of smoke. The hay barn was burning. Caleb, Tom, and old Miguel fought the fire with everything they had. Eliza joined the bucket line without thinking, her bare feet burning on the hot ground. Smoke stung her eyes as she worked. Her nightgown clung to her, soaked and heavy, but she didn't stop. When young Tom collapsed, Eliza dropped her bucket and knelt beside him. She tilted his head back the way she'd learned in Denver and breathed for him until he sputtered and came back. Caleb saw her then, fighting for his ranch, saving his people, and something deep inside him shifted forever. At dawn, the damage was clear. Half the hay was gone. Tracks pointed toward Boone's land. Marshal Pike rode out, but could only shake his head. "Suspicion isn't proof," he said. "You have to be patient." But patience was running out. Later that week, 2 riders showed up at the ranch gate. Hard men, paid men. "Ward should sell while he still can," one said. "Accidents happen in this country." Before they could threaten further, Caleb stepped from the shadows with his Winchester aimed steady. Miguel flanked them, shotgun ready. Eliza stood in the doorway with a pistol. "We're done talking," Caleb said. "Ride off this land now." The men left, but their warning hung in the air like a storm yet to break. Inside, Caleb paced. "You're not safe here," he said sharply. "Pack a bag, I'll take you to town." "No," Eliza said firmly. "I'm not leaving." "Eliza, they threatened you." "They threatened us," she corrected. "And I won't run from them. I choose this life. I choose you. Don't you dare push me away because you're scared." "I am scared," Caleb admitted, voice cracking. "Losing you scares me more than anything the frontier ever threw at me." Eliza stepped close and touched his face. "Then hold on to me instead of pushing me away." He pulled her into a rough, desperate embrace. Not gentle, not soft, real, fierce, true. From that moment on, they fought side by side. She documented every attack. She rode the land with the hired hands, rifle across her saddle. She stood beside Caleb at every fence line and water hole, and the town noticed. Whispers turned into respect. Mrs. Murphy saved scraps for their ranch. Mrs. Henderson prayed for them. Even the minister's wife offered help. When hired gunmen returned, Caleb fired a warning shot that grazed the leader's hat and sent them scrambling. "You tell Boone," Caleb said quietly, "I'm done giving warnings." Soon after, Marshal Pike came with news. Federal investigators are sniffing around Boone. Land theft. Forged claims. They'll need evidence. Eliza's heart quickened. "We have evidence." She and Caleb rode to Laramie with stacks of documents she'd kept. Dates, times, tracks, threats. Their lawyer, Morrison, took one look and nodded. "You did all this yourself?" he asked. "Yes," Eliza said. It's time someone stood up to him. The hearing was brutal. Harrison, Boone's lawyer, went after Eliza first. "You live alone with Mr. Ward," he said. "As an unmarried woman?" "I work for Mr. Ward," Eliza replied steadily, "and I have my own room." "You made him a promise when you were 8. Isn't that strange?" "What's strange," Eliza said calmly, "is turning a child's innocent promise into something dirty. Honor matters. Maybe that surprises you." The courtroom murmured. Even the judge hid a smile. When Caleb testified, he spoke simple truth. No drama, just facts. Tom testified too, pointing out one of Boone's hired men as someone he saw during the fire. Boone's face went pale. Then Marshal Pike placed a horseshoe on the evidence table, one that matched Boone's personal horse, found near the fire line. Boone exploded. "He's selfish," Boone shouted. "That land should be mine. He should have sold." The courtroom froze. The judge's voice dropped low. "Mr. Boone, you just confirmed the motive." Boone lost the case. He was fined heavily, ordered to cease all contact, and warned that any further act would bring criminal charges. The room erupted. People from Sagebrush Crossing cheered. For the first time in years, Caleb felt the weight lift from his chest. As they left the courthouse, Eliza looked up at him. "I told you we'd win," she said softly. Caleb reached for her hand, slowly at first, then held it tightly. "We're going home," he said. Back at the ranch, with danger finally gone and the town fully behind them, Caleb faced Eliza one evening as the sun dipped behind the hills. "When things settle," he said, "I want to do this proper, court you right, proper courting with the intention of marriage, if you'll have me." Eliza smiled, eyes bright. "Caleb Ward," she said, "I crossed 10 years and 1,000 miles to have you. Yes, 1,000 times yes." They married in late September. The whole town came. The church was packed. The minister asked if anyone objected. No one did. Caleb's voice shook when he said, "I do." Eliza's eyes filled when they exchanged rings. Their kiss was gentle, but everyone there felt the years behind it. At the celebration, they danced once, slow and close, while the town watched with warm smiles. The same people who once whispered now clapped and cheered. That night, as they rode home under the stars, Eliza rested her head on Caleb's shoulder. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "None, not one." They reached the ranch house, its windows glowing warm against the night. Caleb lifted her across the threshold with a soft smile. "Welcome home, Mrs. Ward." Eliza looked up at him. "I've been home since the day I came back," she whispered. Outside, the Wyoming night stretched wide and wild. But inside, a love born from a child's promise and strengthened by every storm finally found its forever.